amazing. I don't know how to describe it with the simple words. I feel so blessed. And the only undefeated two-weight class of world champion, I think so. Yeah, someone told me in the backstage that I was like,
Ilia Topuria just silenced the doubters in the most brutal way possible by knocking out Charles Oliveira cold. The arena froze, the crowd erupted, and a new king was crowned. El Matador has officially arrived, and he's not slowing down. After witnessing one of the most violent first-round finishes in recent UFC history, Dana White couldn't hide his amazement. Speaking to the media backstage, the UFC president reflected on Ilia Topuria's meteoric rise, highlighting not just the knockout, but the fearless mindset that's redefining what greatness looks like.
He's on a great 3-fight win streak for sure. You know, all legends that he knocked out. I don't know. I don't know where he sits pound for pound punching power, but you know, moving up a weight class like that and doing what you say you're going to do in the first round and the way he did it is very impressive.
Meanwhile, after delivering one of the biggest knockouts of his career, Ilia Topuria was still trying to process what had just happened. Speaking backstage with the media, the newly crowned champion was emotional and overwhelmed. For him, this moment wasn't just about the win, it was about making history and proving he belongs at the very top of two divisions.
so amazing. It's so amazing. I don't know how to describe it with the simple words. I feel so blessed. And the only undefeated two-weight class of world champion, I think so. Yeah, someone told me in the backstage that I was like,
Even with a historic knockout and a flawless record, Ilia knows not everyone understands him. In his post-fight interview, he opened up about how fans and fighters often misread his confidence, mistaking it for arrogance. But as Ilia explained, what people see on the mic is just a glimpse of what truly drives him.
What happens is that when I talk, they think that I'm cocky and I'm overconfident and all that, but in reality, is that I feel that no one can match my level of skills inside the octagon. The way I perform, the way I move inside the octagon, they don't see me coming. I know what I'm able to do inside that octagon from my training comes. During the training sessions, during the sparring sessions and all that.
And it's that belief built behind closed doors that fuels everything he does. For Ilia, the cage is just the final step. The real war happens in the gym. And now, with each dominant win, he feels more of the world is finally starting to catch on.
I know how good I am. And when I come here and when I talk, they think that I'm cocky, but then they think that I'm crazy. But in reality, I'm not. I used to say that I represent the new generation of the mixed martial arts. And it took me a little bit of time to demonstrate it. You know what I mean? So thanks God, after every fight, I have more believers in my team.
Yeah. Looking ahead, Ilia Topuria made it clear he's ready to return stronger than ever. If the UFC calls his name by the end of the year, he'll be prepared to step back inside the octagon without hesitation. Reflecting on his recent fight, Ilia broke down a critical moment where he almost secured a dominant position, but chose to stand up, showcasing his confidence against elite fighters like Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira, something very few can claim.
I could be ready by the end of the year if they want me. If I get the call from the UFC and they want me to get back in the octagon by the end of the year, I will be ready. And I was this close to get a very dominating position. He did a good scramble there. Then I saw in his face that he was hurt, and I decided to stand up. Beat guys like Walk, Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira. Not many people in the world can say that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Topuria says the real victory happened long before fight night. Speaking with full belief in his preparation, he explained that this belt wasn't won in front of the cameras, it was earned in the grind of everyday training. And for those who think his confidence sounds cocky, Ilia had a clear message rooted in truth.
I just came to collect my belt. I already won it in the training sessions. I know how hard I work. I know what I'm able to do in the sparring sessions and the training sessions. I know how good I am. I know that no one can match my level of skills inside the octagon. And when I say this, maybe I sound a little bit cocky. You guys think that I'm crazy, but I used to prove it.
Right after Ilia Topuria knocked out Charles Oliveira, Joe Rogan shared his honest thoughts. He said Ilia isn't just winning, he's doing it with incredible confidence and hard work. Stepping into the cage against a legend like Charles and saying, "Sorry, it has to be you," showed how mentally strong he is. Rogan believes Ilia's mindset is what truly makes him stand out in today's UFC.
Today. Well, he works so hard and he just keeps getting better, and he's getting better with this insane confidence that he has. Yeah. His confidence is just like above and beyond.
We talked about it.
To be able to step in there against a guy like Charles Oliveira and say, "I'm sorry that it has to be you."
I mean,
which is what he's been saying.
Right on the front end, he's trying.
I'm sorry, it has to be you.
Says poor Charles.
That's
right?
crazy. Crazy.
Moving on, just after the knockout, Chael Sonnen shared his thoughts on Ilia Topuria's power. He said it wasn't about flashy techniques, but raw, frightening strength. Sonnen compared Ilia to Mike Tyson, one of the most powerful fighters ever. According to him, Ilia can step into the cage and hurt anyone, no matter their experience or age. A kind of power that's truly rare and hard to describe.
I tell you, there was no real new skills here. I mean, I've seen jabs and crosses, I've seen hooks. It just turns out there is a power. There is a power that is almost unspeakable. I got to go back to Iron Mike Tyson, quite frankly, when I've seen a guy that can step in regardless of opponent, regardless of age, regardless of experience.
As Dominic continued, he dug deeper into Ilia Topuria's rise, comparing his path to legends like Conor McGregor. He highlighted the tough competition Ilia has faced and how moving between weight classes adds to his challenge. Cruz questioned whether Ilia has truly dominated his divisions yet, but made it clear that the level of opponents he's beaten is nothing short of impressive.
Just nailed what's the difference. It's the level of competition that he fought on the way up to the same records as Conor McGregor. If you look at who they fought, you can't probably really compare the levels, and that's what I hear you saying, and I would agree 100% with you on that. But everything else he's matched. But the thing that he's done is had the harder matchups. And then coming up to 155, the way he did it at 145, and like we're saying, we're looking at him at 45, we're looking at him at 55. Who does he really fight in either of those divisions, right? So that's the other thing. He's kind of in a way with his style, what you're looking at, you're like, man, did he clean these divisions out without cleaning these divisions?
However, Anthony Smith offered a different perspective on Ilia Topuria's knockout power. Instead of just focusing on the finish, Smith praised Charles Oliveira's toughness and skill during the fight. He pointed out that Ilia's power isn't just about capitalizing on mistakes. It's about consistent pressure and respect for his opponent's abilities, making the knockout even more impressive.
Before he gets him out of there.
Well, when you carry that type of power, the knockout itself isn't the shocking part. I think one of the most impressive parts is that he didn't take advantage of a mistake that Charles made. I thought Charles fought a really good fight for the short amount of time that they were in there.
After witnessing Ilia Topuria's dominant win, Daniel Cormier took a moment to highlight just how special this run truly is. Breaking down Ilia's path, DC emphasized the level of names he's beaten and why what Topuria just did puts him in a category the UFC has rarely seen before.
He beat one of the greatest, he beat the two greatest featherweights of all time, in Volkanovski and Holloway. And then he just knocked out a guy in Charles Oliveira who holds the record for submissions in UFC history and finishes. He's one of the greatest we've ever seen, and he got him out of there in the very first round. We have not seen this before.
How does he match up against?
Meanwhile, tensions flared between Ilia Topuria and Paddy Pimblett after the fight, and Paddy also gave credit where it was due. Watching closely from the sidelines, he shared his thoughts on how the fight played out and what he noticed in the fighter's body language just moments before the cage door closed.
I said before it when he was walking out, I said Charles looks nervous. I thought it stays away, and Ilia looked very calm.
Yeah.
And I think that made a difference there in that first round of Charles.
Furthermore, Johnny Roses didn't hold back after Ilia Topuria's shocking first-round knockout of Charles Oliveira. He reminded fans that Ilia had been warning everyone for weeks, and now the proof is undeniable. The hype was real, and Johnny made it clear he saw this victory coming all along.
Ilia El Matador Topuria knocks out Charles Oliveira. He is the undisputed UFC lightweight champion of the world. I know that he was the odds-on favorite by a heavy amount, but I told you so! I told you so! And the only reason why I'm saying this is because in the last 2 or 3 weeks, my entire Instagram feed, my entire TikTok feed was just cut downs of Charles Oliveira. All I heard for the past couple of weeks was, Charlie do Bronx eto Brazil!
Johnny continued breaking down Ilia's perfect execution inside the cage, showcasing not just his power, but his confidence to back up bold promises. With an unstoppable streak over some of the biggest names in the sport, Johnny believes Ilia is on a historic path that very few have matched.
That's all I heard. People say that Charles was going to beat Ilia Topuria, but that is not what happened. Ilia Topuria did exactly what he said he was going to do. Not that I'm just going to beat him. Not that I'm just going to knock him out in the second, third, fourth, fifth. He said, I'm going to go out there and knock out Charles Oliveira in the first bloody round. And that is exactly what he did. Like, how can you deny this guy anymore? He might actually go on, depending upon how long he fights, he might go on to be one of the greatest UFC fighters ever. Back to back to back, he has knocked out Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, and now Charles Oliveira. He's a double bloody champion.
Following Ilia Topuria's brutal knockout win, all eyes turned to longtime rival Paddy Pimblett. With their feud still simmering, fans waited for his reaction, and Paddy didn't stay quiet, offering a response that quickly sparked conversation across the MMA world. Furthermore, while the fight ended with respect between Ilia and Charles, chaos quickly followed backstage. In a surprise moment, Ilia Topuria came face to face with Paddy Pimblett, sparking tension that UFC officials weren't prepared for. When asked about the incident, Dana White didn't hold back. The UFC president was visibly frustrated and made it clear the face-off never should have happened in the first place.
That should have never happened. Let's start there. I was already back in my room, or that would have never happened, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And I don't really think about that stuff tonight, other than, obviously the Van fight. But, we'll see. We'll see how this plays out.
And he's mentioned that he would obviously love to fight in Spain, but he does.
After getting shoved by Ilia Topuria backstage, Paddy Pimblett didn't back down. In fact, he doubled down. Still fired up in the aftermath, Paddy spoke openly about their deep-rooted rivalry, claiming the fight doesn't even need hype because the hate is real. What followed was one of Paddy's most savage statements yet, making it crystal clear how personal this matchup has become.
I'm always prepared. I'm always ready to do that. Like, we've got history, you know what I mean? You don't even need to sell that fight, it sells itself. Like, two people who genuinely dislike each other. You don't really get that. We haven't seen that since Khabib and McGregor. Right. Two people who actually hate each other, because I hate him, you know what I mean? I wouldn't even want to finish him fast. I'd want to finish him with a minute left in the fight after I've elbowed him 700 times. You know what I mean?
As Paddy continued, he opened up about where his fierce drive comes from, going back to his amateur days. Fighting rivals from hated gyms gave him a taste for personal battles, but this one feels even bigger. With most people doubting his chances against Ilia Topuria, Paddy said that proving the doubters wrong fuels his fire like nothing else.
I've done it before in my amateur days when I fought someone from a rival gym. Like, it wasn't as personal, but it was big for our city, you know what I mean? I was fighting someone in a gym where we hated each other, and there was a bit of a history. So I'm more motivated when I'm like that, especially the fact that everyone thinks I'll lose. You know what I mean? Everyone thinks that I'll lose. 9 out of 10 people probably think he'll knock me out, and I love proving people wrong. It just gives me this warm fuzzy feeling inside, just making people eat.
Meanwhile, many were quick to crown Ilia Topuria as the next unstoppable force, but Chael Sonnen kept things grounded. Speaking with his usual honesty, Sonnen pointed out that despite the knockout, Charles Oliveira wasn't the top guy in the division. He then shifted the spotlight toward an unexpected name, Paddy Pimblett, and teased a possible grudge match that might already be brewing behind the scenes.
It's a big word. Fighting with a lot of emotion, how do you handle that?
I've done it before in my amateur days when I fought someone from a rival gym. Like, it wasn't as personal, but it was big for our city, you know what I mean? I was fighting someone in a gym where we hated each other, and there was a bit of a history. So I'm more motivated when I'm like that, especially the fact that everyone thinks I'll lose. You know what I mean? Everyone thinks that I'll lose. 9 out of 10 people probably think he'll knock me out, and I love proving people wrong. It just gives me this warm fuzzy feeling inside, just making people eat their own words.
And what has that been like for you? Because you have been keenly aware.
Getting on with all the buzz surrounding Ilia Topuria's next move, Daniel Cormier turned his attention to the brewing tension with Paddy Pimblett. DC didn't shy away from breaking down the matchup, honestly acknowledging Paddy's improvements, but also pointing out the stylistic problems he'd face against Ilia. For Cormier, the fight is intriguing, but the path to beating Ilia remains a steep climb.
It is big. Obviously, you saw it in the octagon.
Yes.
There's a massive difference in size. Paddy showed against Michael Chandler that he is much better than people give him credit for. Where I would worry for Paddy Pimblett is he's not the best striker. He can strike, but he isn't as clean as Charles Oliveira, and Charles is bigger. He has to get the fight to the ground, but Ilia's a grappler. I mean, honestly, watching him and Paddy Pimblett's a good fight. Him and Arman Tsarukyan's a good fight. I think he has a lot of challenges, but it's going to be hard to take the belt from this.
Despite all the hype, trash talk, and intensity leading up to UFC 317, what happened after the fight showed the true spirit of martial arts. Both Charles Oliveira and Ilia Topuria displayed nothing but class and respect. After the knockout, there was no bad blood, just two warriors acknowledging each other's heart, skill, and the journey it took to share that cage. Ilia Topuria's stunning knockout of Charles Oliveira wasn't just a victory, it was a statement to the entire UFC world. He's not only proved his power and skill, but also his unshakable confidence and readiness to dominate multiple divisions. The way he handled pressure, delivered on bold promises, and maintained respect afterward shows why he's quickly becoming one of MMA's most feared champions. But the drama isn't over. Paddy Pimblett's fiery reaction and Dana White's warning hint that Ilia's next battles will be just as intense and personal. Whether he's defending his crown or settling scores, one thing is clear: Ilia Topuria is here to change the game forever. What do you think? Who should Ilia fight next, Paddy Pimblett or someone else? Drop your predictions and thoughts in the comments below.